Inequalities review. I want you to write this problem down. I want you to solve it, and then we will check it. So the first thing that we're going to do is get rid of our fraction. So to get rid of our fraction, remember, we're going to multiply everything on both sides by 5. And the 5's divide out, so we're left with negative 4x is less than or equal to 75. Then we're going to divide both sides by negative 4. That's a misconception that I've seen. We're not going to divide by 4, we're going to divide by negative 4 because a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and I want the value of positive x. So then I am left with x. Now, since I divided by a negative, I am going to flip my inequality sign. So x is going to be greater than or equal to 75 fourths. Now I'm okay, that doesn't need to be simplified. I'm okay if you leave it like that. I am also okay if you want to say 18 and 3/4. Now I'd like you to write this problem down and solve it, and then we will go over it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is rewrite it so that I have only addition. Now I'm going to put my parentheses around the negative 4 just to separate the negative from the positive. Alright, now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, I need to do my distribution first. So I'm going to do negative 8 less than or equal to 2x plus I'm going to distribute negative 4 to x, so that's going to be negative 4x plus negative 4 times negative 1 is 4. Okay, now I need to combine my like terms, so I have negative 8 less than or equal to 2x and negative 4x is negative 2x plus 4. Now I need to isolate my variable, so I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. 8 negatives and 4 negatives is 12 negatives less than or equal to negative 2x. Now I need the value of 1 positive x, so I'm going to divide by negative 2, and I'm going to divide by negative 2. So I get 6. Now remember, since I divided by a negative, I have to flip my inequality sign. So x is going to be less than or equal to positive 6. Alright, go ahead and write this down and solve it. Alright, there's nothing to distribute. There are no like terms to combine. All I have is 2 x's, and that equals 8 and 1/10. So all I'm going to do is divide both sides by 2. I get the value of x is greater than, well, 8 and 1/10 divided by 2 is 4. I'm going to add a 0, bring that down. 4 5/100. And that's all. Alright, go ahead and write this one down and try and solve it. Alright, you may think that this one's a little tricky. What this means is 4 minus, really, right here, this is like a 1. If there's nothing there, it's assumed that it's a negative, so or just a 1. So, and in this case, it's a negative 1 because there's a minus sign right here. So this is, what I would suggest that you do is just go ahead and say 4 minus 1 times x plus 1 is less than or equal to 5 minus 6. So just substitute, or not substitute, but go ahead and show that 1 in there. So then you can say 4 plus negative 1 x plus 1 less than or equal to 5 plus negative 6. You may need to watch this one a couple of times, guys. Make sure. Again, there really is just a 1 right there that's invisible. It's just not shown. Oops. Okay, so now we're going to distribute 4 plus negative x, because negative 1 times x is just negative 1x, but I'm going to write it as negative x, plus negative 1, because a negative 1 times 1 is negative 1, is less than 5 plus negative 6. Okay, now I have to combine my like terms. 4 and negative 1 is 3 plus negative x is less than. Now I'm going to combine 5 and negative 6. So that's negative 1. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Now I could have added x to both sides, and that would be fine. But I'm going to say negative x is less than 1 negative, and 3 negatives is 4 negatives. So here, since I have negative x, really remember that's like a negative 1x. So I could show my 1 right here, so I'm dividing by negative 1. And here I'm divided by negative 1. So now I have x is greater than, I have to flip my inequality sign, negative 4 divided by negative 1 is 4. So watch that a couple of times and make sure you understand it. I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you what else I could have done. I could have gotten my x's all on the right. That way I don't have to divide by a negative, but the answer is still going to come out the same, because my negative x and my positive x will still zero out. So I'm left with 3 is less than negative 1 plus x. So add 1 and add 1. So I still have 4 is less than x. It came out the same way, I just went about it two different ways. Alright, I want you to write this one down, and I want you to solve it. Alright, so in this problem, I want you to pay close attention. I want you to understand that 1/3 x really, I'm sorry, not 1/3 x, 1/3 x times 2, you could distribute first and then get rid of your fraction. But I also want you to understand that all of this is like one variable over 1. So 1/3, so this 1/3 times x plus 2 is the same thing as x plus 2 over 3. So to get rid of that, we're still going to multiply by 3 to both sides. So really, you don't have to distribute first. All I have to do is multiply by 3, because those are going to divide out. And I don't have to multiply my 3 by anything in here, because again, if I just had x plus 2 over 3, I would be multiplying by 3 and those would divide out. So in this particular problem, you don't multiply 3 by x plus 2. But I do have to multiply everything by 3 on the right. So I'm left with x plus 2 is greater than or equal to 3 times, you know what, let me rewrite just this part as 5 plus negative 2x. Alright, so now I have to distribute my 3 to my 5, and that is 15 plus 3 times negative 2x is negative 6x. Alright, now what I notice is I have x's on the left and x's on the right, and I have positives over on the left and positives on the right. So I'm going to add 6x to the right and 6x to the left. So I have 7x plus 2 is greater than or equal to 15, because those guys zeroed out. Now I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. So I get that 7x is greater than or equal to 13. I'm going to divide by 7 and divide by 7. Now since I'm dividing by a positive, I do not flip my inequality sign. So I keep it the same. So x is greater than or equal to 13/7. Okay, next one, write this one down and solve it. Okay, so in this problem, We have fractions, but we don't all have the same denominator. So we're going to go 1/4 x plus, I'm going to convert my 1/2 also to fourths. So that's going to be 2/4 is less than or equal to negative 3/4 x. Now, to get rid of my fraction, I'm going to have to multiply everything by 4. And over here, I'm going to have to multiply by 4 as well. So now, all I have left is just 1x, so I'm just going to write x plus 2 is less than or equal to, now those divided out, oops, keep that x there, so I have negative 3x. I subtract 2, hold on, actually what I'm going to do first is add 3x to both sides. And I could have kept going, I just would like to get all my x's on one side first. So then I have 4x plus 2 is less than or equal to, I have nothing left, so I'm going to say 0. So now I'm going to subtract 2 and subtract 2, so I have 4x is less than or equal to negative 2. Divide by 4 and divide by 4. So x is less than or equal to negative 2/4. Now you do have to simplify this. You can leave it as a fraction, but it needs to be simplified to negative 1/2. Okay, I think this is going to be our last one. So I want you to solve this problem, and we'll check it. So I'm going to go ahead and change everything to addition. Okay. Now, okay, hang on. I just messed up. Wow. Caught myself. Here's what I want to point out. The squared applies to the 3, not to the negative sign. So what I would suggest that you do first is go ahead and square your 3, which is 9. So really this is 5 minus 9. So we're going to say 5 plus negative 9. If I had, there is a difference between negative 3 squared and negative 3, all of that squared. This is positive 9. This is negative 9 because the negative is not being squared. So on these types of problems, be real careful with what it is that you're squaring. So what I would do if I were you is just go ahead and square at the beginning, and then so this would change to minus 9, so you have plus negative 9. Okay, so now let's combine our like terms. 4 plus negative 2n less than or equal to, you know what, let's go ahead and combine our like terms over here, so that's going to be negative 4. So I'm going to subtract 4, and I'm going to subtract 4, so those subtract out. So negative 2n is less than or equal to 4 negatives and 4 negatives is 8 negatives. Now I'm going to divide by negative 2. So I have n. Now I divided by a negative, so flip that around. N is greater than or equal to 4. Alright, here's what I want you to do. I want you to watch the video or watch the problem several times until you understand. However, if there are some that you're really, really stuck on, I want you to put a star next to those that we can go over tomorrow before our independent work. I don't want anybody coming in and feeling stuck before we start our independent assignment. I know it was long, but I hope that this was helpful.